Tonight, Health Canada approves the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine for children aged 6 months to 5 years old. Also, as the Pope's visit to Canada draws nearer, there are concerns from First Nations leaders around how tickets to the event were distributed. Plus, Country Thunder is ready to welcome back music fans to the Craven Valley after a 2-year hiatus.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
A stunning shot of an electric Saskatoon sky, thanks to Corey Waldner. It's Thursday, July 14th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for watching. Health Canada has approved the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine for children under the age of 5. It's the first vaccine to be authorized for use in this age group in Canada. The approval expands COVID-19 vaccine eligibility to nearly 2 million children in Canada. This country's immunization advisory body, NACI, recommends 2 doses be administered 8 weeks apart. Laura Sharpoletti has local reaction.
Kyle Fisher is father of 2 in Saskatoon. And like so many newer parents, he's only been in the role during pandemic times. His 2.5-year-old son was born right before COVID-19 hit Saskatchewan in March of 2020, and his infant is just 4 months old. Fisher says he's relieved his son finally can be vaccinated and that his youngest will follow close behind.
My wife and I kind of feel like it's just been us against the world sometimes, especially last year when all the adults in our lives were able to be vaccinated, and it kind of felt like the kids under 5 were left behind.
Meanwhile, in Regina, Sarah Wilkie says she cannot wait to get her 3-year-old daughter protected. She says the family has been vigilant in keeping the toddler healthy, but has been anxiously waiting for this day to come. However, Wilkie says she doesn't have a lot of faith that the province will be able to meet the demand in a timely manner.
I feel like in more recent months and even this last little while, the province has kind of turned its back on us as parents, right, by removing things like the vaccine mandates and masking.
For Saskatchewan pediatricians, today is a joyous occasion. They say they're ready to go with all hands on deck to get little ones vaccinated as quickly as possible. A Saskatoon pediatrician warns parents to take this seriously as COVID-19 is still a threat.
It's not true that children don't suffer complications from COVID. They do get admitted to the hospital. Some of them go to the ICU. Some of them even died in Saskatchewan and elsewhere in Canada. So it does happen. And even just to be sick is a big deal for a child and for their family.
Brynda Moore says the government will need to support families, especially those in rural areas, when the vaccine does roll out.
Having interpreters on site or having community leaders advertise a vaccine, having transportation support, having opening hours that are friendly for people who work during the day or who have multiple children to look after.
The vaccinations will be administered in doses 1/4 the size approved for adults. In a statement today, the province said it is ordering vaccinations right now. It's anticipating some guidance from NACI as to which kids will get the doses first. The province says it expects to roll out vaccinations the week of July 18th. Laura Sharpoletti, CBC News, Regina.
The federal government says random COVID-19 testing for fully vaccinated air travelers will resume next week. Ottawa suspended random testing for those entering Canada by air last month as part of a plan to move testing outside of airports. The random testing will resume July 19th for fully vaccinated travelers arriving at Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver airports. But testing won't be done at the airports. They'll be completed at off-site locations such as pharmacies. A virtual self-swab appointment can also be booked. The Senate Human Rights Committee has issued a report on forced and coerced sterilization in Canada. It says the practice is not confined to the past and persists in this country today. It says it has happened to girls as young as 14 and as recently as 2019. The report calls for compensation for survivors and a ban on the practice. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
I was sterilized against my will when I was 29 years old.
Sylvia Tuckenow telling her story to a Senate committee earlier this year. Having just given birth to a baby boy in a Saskatoon hospital, she was wheeled into a different room and operated on against her will.
I asked the man doing the surgery if he was done a few times. When he was finished, he said, "There, tied, cut, and burnt. Nothing will get through that."
In many cases, women describe a story just like this. After giving birth, disoriented and sometimes heavily medicated, medical staff tell them that they have to get a surgical tubal ligation, stripping them of their ability to conceive another child.
These scenarios included medical staff outright threatening patients and misinforming them about the need for sterilization.
A new report from Canada's Senate says the procedure is disproportionately performed on Indigenous, Black, and racialized women. They are sometimes marked for the procedure by medical staff if they live in poverty, already have children, or struggle with addictions issues.
The survivors who testified were unequivocal. They believed that racism was the driving force behind their unwanted sterilizations.
Senators say the practice constitutes an assault, but as far as they can tell, no medical professional has ever been charged for it. So as part of 13 recommendations, they want the criminal code changed to make the practice illegal, a formal apology, and compensation for survivors. Plus, they want a national plan to collect and publish data on the procedure. Senators believe thousands of women have had it done, but there is no solid data. Instead, just countless stories.
Here's a typical, for instance, call I get. Senator Boyer, I've been trying to have a baby for 5 years, and I can't. And I remember signing a paper a long time ago.
The report also calls on medical associations and licensing bodies to do more to denounce and prevent the practice of forced sterilization. That includes proper training for medical staff on patient rights and developing a clear consent policy before the procedure can be done. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some residential school survivors will not be able to see the Pope during his upcoming visit to Canada because of the way tickets are allocated. That's the word from the head of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops is in charge of the ticket allotments.
There has been very little communication and inclusion on the disbursement of these tickets, the funding that should be coming to our regions, very little input. And, you know, we're talking about being excluded from these very, very important decisions. The survivors expect it to be a better coordinated system. Now, in saying that, we're going to continue to be vocal and put our positions forward on the tickets and the funding that should go to survivors to get there for those that wish to attend, for sure.
A batch of 10,000 free tickets available to the general public was sold out in 10 minutes. Ottawa is providing financial support for Indigenous communities to mark the upcoming papal visit. Olivia Stefanovic has more.
In just over 10 days, Pope Francis is expected to deliver an apology at this former residential school site. A moment not all survivors have the resources to attend.
Nobody really come out front and said, all right, we got the money to take survivors to Edmonton. We got 200 rooms and we got buses. You know, they never said that to anybody.
Ottawa is trying to fill the gap, providing more than $30 million in funding for Indigenous communities and organizations.
It would be untoward that people went out and were out of pocket simply to hear very simple words of apology.
The money will cover travel expenses for survivors, cultural events and ceremonies held in communities, however they see fit to mark the occasion.
People are still debating whether they're ready, to face, this opportunity, because many people are struggling.
The federal government is also giving $3 million to the 3 host regions, Edmonton, Quebec City, and Iqaluit, along with an additional $2 million for Indigenous language interpretation of the events.
Yeah, I really feel it's good news. It's the only issue is it's a time frame.
He worries the funding is being rolled out too close to the Pope's arrival.
It's 10 days left. It's not in a rush. It's so goddamn late.
We're working around the clock so people can have a positive experience.
Since this is a state visit, Ottawa is also footing the Pope's security bill. Some dioceses are helping to cover travel costs for survivors, but not all. leaving the church to rely on donations.
We are being very frugal as far as this goes. We are fundraising for about $15 to $18 million.
The government says its own funding will be made available by the end of the week and could contribute more to ensure the widest possible access for this historic visit. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Researchers say wood bison are in danger and need scientific help. Today, $5.1 million was announced in Saskatoon at the International Bison Conference for a massive project meant to help the species. Researchers, with the help of Vito Intervac, will try to create a vaccine for the main diseases threatening bison health. A Saskatoon veterinarian and U of S professor says it's needed because wood bison do not have enough genetic diversity. That's because of bison reintroduction strategies and crossbreeding. Greg Adams says the bison must be saved with science.
It's been such a historically important species, but also from an evolutionary point of view, it is a keystone species on the prairie and in the northern boreal regions. Without that keystone, if you know what a keystone looks like, it's the support stone that keeps an arch up. And if we remove that keystone, the arch falls.
Researchers will also use genomic tools to create healthier bison herds. Key partners on the project include Genome Canada, the federal government, Parks Canada, the University of Saskatchewan, and the Toronto Zoo. The project is funded for 3 years. And a live look now at the South Leisure Centre spray pad in South Regina. It's still really warm outside. Doesn't some of that cool water look refreshing? It looks like the heat trend is going to continue right through the weekend, and Ethan will join us from the spray park right after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. The exclusive export event is back.
Welcome back. Ethan Williams joins me now from the South Leisure Centre spray pad in Regina. I have to ask, have you ran through the water yet?
You know, Sam, there is a water-breathing dragon at this park here, and I'm pretty tempted. Probably by the end of this weather segment, I'll have to go run through it. But the kids are really enjoying it here this evening, soaking up the sun. And with all this heat has come some heat records, and especially for our northern neighbors, where Stony Rapids, you had the highest deviation from your record, and the oldest record too, set back in 1967. Key Lake and Collins Bay also racking up some records too, but the south didn't miss out. Lucky Lake having the warmest temperature there yesterday of 35.1 degrees. And current temperatures right now across the province are still very warm at this time, between 25 and 30 degrees. And if you factor in the humidex levels, we are looking at temperatures into the low 30s. At least that's what they're feeling like at this point. In fact, in Coronach, still feeling like 36 degrees. It has been a very hot afternoon, and fittingly so, there are heat warnings that are now in effect for much of south and central Saskatchewan, as well as La Ronge in Prince Albert National Park and the Pelican Narrows Cumberland House region. But further to the north, we have air quality advisories in effect. And here's why, because we have several fires that are on the go, and this situation is likely changing as we speak. All afternoon, fires have been popping up in the north part of the province, and it is really causing some issues in terms of smoke through the next little while. You can see around Key Lake and Wollaston Lake over the next few days, especially as we get into Saturday. Keep in mind as you're heading through the weekend that air quality there will likely be an issue. It's going to be widespread, but winds will be dying down in that area. Our fire risk tonight shows that we are no longer in that low to medium risk that we were just last week. We are seeing high and extreme risks for much of the province, so do be careful if you have any plans to head out this weekend or have any fires. Now tonight we will see a mostly clear night. Unlike last night, we will not see any thunderstorms largely in the province. Come tomorrow afternoon, we are looking for potentially some storms to move up from Montana into southern Saskatchewan, and those could be severe. We'll keep an eye on those through the afternoon tomorrow. And then a system moving through on Saturday, which could bring some relief to the forest fire situation in the north. And wind gusts will be cooperating as well. Over the next few hours here, we will see winds die down overnight, and then they won't be bad actually over the next couple of days, gusting between 30 and 40 kilometers an hour, but certainly not like we have seen them over the past couple of days here, where they've been up to 50 and maybe even 60 kilometers an hour in some locations. Again, storms possible tomorrow in Regina, but look at those humidex levels pick up as we head through the weekend. Things do calm down a little bit temperature-wise heading into the beginning of next week, but some showers are possible. Saskatoon, again, a very hot weekend in store for you. Overnight lows likely not getting much below 20 degrees, and as we head into next week, it looks like those are some more average temperatures in store, Sam. The fire-breathing dragon or water-breathing dragon is on now. I think I'm going to head over. I'll take my cue now, Sam.
Have fun, Ethan.
They're climbing everywhere. We came to release some ladybugs by the trees. I think they're cool. We eat little green bugs on the leaves.
Lots of little adorable ones, some in costume, showed up in Victoria Park this morning to help the city of Regina with some organic pest control. They did it through the release of 200,000 ladybugs. Families had a chance to learn about how the bugs will help before releasing them into the wild. Some of the ladybugs were released into the park. Others were taken home to be released in people's yards or parks near their homes. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. After a 2-year hiatus, Country Thunder is returning to its home in Craven this weekend. I caught up with the general manager at the site earlier this week to see how the team is feeling about coming home. All right, it has been 3 years since we've stood on Main Street and had a conversation about Country Thunder. How does it feel to be back?
You know, it's just so incredible. It's a homecoming, right? I mean, we're all from here originally, and we haven't been home in a couple of years. So us just being able to walk onto this site and see this old site, it's where it started. And it's hard to put into words how you feel when you walk out here. And I don't know, it's just fantastic.
Lots of challenges in having a festival during a pandemic. There were considerations of bringing it back for 2021, and then that had to be postponed, obviously. Can you tell us about some of the challenges when you're dealing with artists from around the world?
Yeah. You know what? It was difficult in 2020 and 2021. We were really fortunate to do 5 shows in 2021 down in the U.S., but of course, Canada stayed a little bit more, closed a little tighter. The artists themselves have been really good to deal with. I mean, we've dealt with some COVID protocols over the last couple of years, but I mean, everything's kind of opening up now. There's still some restrictions backstage when it comes to meet and greets and how many people can be back there. And it all depends on the comfort level of the artist. But, you know, we're here to facilitate that for them, plus make sure that the fans have a good time as well. So
what are you most looking forward to this weekend? There's a lot of stuff going on, and people may have forgotten the site looks a little different too since, you know, years previous.
Yeah, I mean, the guys have done a really great job getting this thing ready because we haven't had anybody on the site for the last couple of years. And what am I most excited about? I know it's a country music festival, but I am so excited to see Took in the beer gardens on Sunday night. I have to say it. I don't care. I don't care. I mean, obviously Morgan Wallen's performance on Saturday is going to be fantastic. There's rumors that Gwen Stefani is going to be here with Blake, and she showed up in Arizona in April at one of our shows. So she likes to travel with him, and she's been here before. I think the last time he played here, she was here. So that's going to be kind of cool. You know, just everything. Having a piece of pizza on Main Street, being able to see people you haven't seen in a long time, and just gather and enjoy each other's company.
Are you worried at all about everything going on with the airlines, that your artists might not make it here?
Oh, they're going to make it. They will make it. You know, with Air Canada and the cancellation of flights, and there's some issues with WestJet right now as well. Yes, there are some concerns with people getting across the border, but they can drive across if they have to. I mean, it's people just trying to get as close to the border as possible. And if they have to drive across, or, you know, some guys, if they've got the cash, they're going to do a private jet anyway. So there's no issue on people getting here. It's just, you know, our heart palpitations for the next couple of days, but they'll get here.
Just before the pandemic, there were new rules for going into the stage area, clear bag policy, those kind of things that people may have forgotten about. So what are some of the key rules people need to keep in mind if they're coming out this weekend?
Absolutely. That clear bag policy is very important. We're sticking to that. Every bag will be checked. every purse. We can bring smaller purses out, so those will be checked as well. So be prepared to just wait a little bit longer to get in. As well, coming through the gates, they shouldn't see any issues. I mean, most of our tickets are digital now. Get your ticket scanned, get your wristband, get in. It's the same kind of thing. Something a little new for this year is our day parking area. It's actually on site this year, so people will see that as a little bit different. But for the most part, it'll take people a few minutes to get the rust out of their joints, but once they get in here, it's just going to be what they're familiar with, and they'll enjoy themselves immensely, I hope.
Would you say your team has the rust out of its joints?
Well, maybe not. No. You know, over the last few days, actually the last couple of weeks, you kind of see people, their synapses firing a little faster, you know, things starting to move a little more quickly. I can't say that we were not rusty, because we were, but as you look around, I mean, the site is looking really great, and these guys have just done a fantastic job preparing everything and making sure that we're good to go for Thursday night in the beer gardens.
Well, thank you so much, and good luck with the festival this weekend.
Thank you so much.
A gorgeous morning in Regina tomorrow at 8 a.m. We'll be at 22 degrees under some bright sunshine, and those winds gusting out of the southeast only up to about 25 kilometers an hour. By the time we hit the noon hour, we will see those sunny conditions stick around. We'll be close to 30 degrees, but keep in mind that humidex is already going to be close to 35 at that point. Saskatoon looking at also a very nice morning tomorrow, sunny conditions at 22 degrees, and we'll be looking for those winds a little softer coming out of the southeast, lighter than Regina, and then we'll be at 30 degrees possibly by the time we hit the noon hour. That humidex still feeling closer to 37 under sunny conditions. And if you are headed out to Ness Creek this weekend, it looks like a very nice weekend in store for you there. And this evening, as the events begin, Sam, it'll be 22 degrees with nice light winds.
All right, thanks, Ethan. And before we leave you tonight, several newcomer families gathered in Regina's Les Sherman Park yesterday with the Open Door Society and Bike Regina. Many were there to receive donated bikes, while others brought their own. It was a chance for them to explore the city in a new way and to make friends.
Tires all pumped up, and I'm ready to go.
We are having our second group ride of a series of group rides that we've organized this summer. And we're going to be exploring some of the downtown biking infrastructure and some of the bike paths in this area as well. I've been living in Regina for the past 16, 14 years, a long time. But in all that time, I did not know the amount of green spaces, walking paths, bike paths that we had. I reached out to a friend who also likes to bike. He bikes to work, and I asked him if he would be down to do something like that, and he said, well, you should talk to Bike Regina.
Man, we're so excited. We're so excited to be part of it. It's nice to broaden the circle and meet people who we haven't met before.
We are also able to give us some bikes to our youth program participants. Mark Dockery reached out to us earlier in the year, and he mentioned that he was working with Rides by Marb to give bikes away to people in the community, and the timing was just perfect, because that way we could make sure that people and kids in our programs that normally couldn't participate because they don't have a bike, that they could join us.
The opportunity to get anyone and everyone moving in an equitable manner is just peachy.
It's a great way to connect with people, stay active, get to know the city, and enjoy the summer.
And they've got a great night for it. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news tonight at 11. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.